A Plague Tale Requiem scrambling its way onto Xbox Game Pass on October 18th. But if you haven't played the first game, then you've probably got some big questions. Who are these intrepid French children? Why does everyone seem to be trying to kill them? And where on earth did all these rats come from? To answer these queries and many, many more, we thought we'd do a quick recap of the story so far in A Plague Tale. A Plague Tale Innocence brings us to a richly detailed version of 14th century Aquitaine, giving players a chance to explore a place and time which hasn't appeared much in video game form. Although I am afraid to say that this period in French history is no Belle Epoque. The 100 Years' War rages on, though I suppose no one was calling it that yet, and the place is littered with both English soldiers and the forces of the French Inquisition. To make matters worse, the Black Plague has also been rampaging its way through the land, spread primarily by rats. But if you look past the disease-ridden rodents and the bloody warfare, it really is quite a picturesque part of the world. Our protagonist in the first game is a teenage girl of noble descent named Amicia, who lives with her sickly young brother, Hugo, while their mother attempts to use her alchemy skills to devise a cure. Their quiet family life comes to an abrupt end when the forces of the French Inquisition come riding into town. Not nearly as inquisitive as you may have been led to believe. They quickly slaughter almost everyone while searching for Hugo. Fortunately, Amicia is able to get her little brother to safety, seeking help from a doctor who explains that Hugo's blood carries an ancient evil called the Prima Macula. Not only is this curse the cause of his bad health, but it's also the reason the Inquisition are after him, as the Grand Inquisitor hopes to harness his power and use it to take over all of France. So begins an epic quest to procure an elixir for Hugo before his powers fall into the wrong hands. Over the course of their perilous journey, Hugo and Amicia do encounter a few friendly faces. There's Lucas, the doctor's apprentice, a young blacksmith named Roderick, and a pair of sibling thieves called Arthur and Melly, all of whom do their part to help Amicia on her quest. Eventually, they are even able to craft an elixir which alleviates Hugo's symptoms without curing him entirely, although things do go a bit off the rails from there. When she finds out that their mother is still alive but imprisoned, Amicia decides not to tell Hugo because, you know, he's a child and they have enough on their plate already. But he overhears anyway, throws a proper tantrum and goes off to join the Inquisition so that he can see his mum again. The Grand Inquisitor takes full advantage of this family fallout, injecting himself with some of Hugo's blood in an attempt to claim the Prima Macula for himself. The elixir prevents him from taking on all of Hugo's powers, though it's still a lot more rat magic than you want a bad guy to have. They say that love conquers all, and it turns out that even applies to medieval military leaders wielding powers of the occult. The Grand Inquisitor threatens Hugo's mother in an attempt to awaken his full powers, which works, but also makes him very, very angry, flooding the whole place with a ravenous swarm of rats. Thankfully, Amicia is able to talk him down, and they go off to confront the Inquisitor together. Both Arthur and Roderick lose their lives on the way to the big showdown, where it turns out that the Inquisitor has been waiting for them with a 1,000-strong horde of purposefully bred white rats that only he can control. Still, after an epic war of the rats takes place between them, Hugo is ultimately able to overpower the Inquisitor, leaving his furry friends to gobble him up. Not so grand now, is he? The first game ends with Amicia, Hugo, their mother, and Lucas leaving to go in search of a new home, while Melly embarks on a path of her own. The rats and the plague all seem to have disappeared, and things finally seem to be looking up for the de Rune household. Right? Wrong! From what we've seen of A Plague Tale Requiem, it's pretty clear that the next stage in their lives is going to be anything but plain sailing. Amicia is a young woman now, and while that does allow her to hold her own a lot better in combat, each life she takes puts a heavier weight on her young conscience. Hugo is in a similar position. His powers have evolved to the point where they'll play a much more active role in the new game, but players will have to be highly wary of the toll it takes upon him. Still, at least their search for a cure has taken them to the south of France, where they can take in some sunnier scenery, all of which looks absolutely spectacular in the next-gen exclusive sequel. So that's something, right? Arriving on October 18th, A Plague Tale Requiem looks all set to be a real blockbuster of a game, and now you're all ready to dive into its twisted tale of rats and redemption. Stay tuned for more updates on all the biggest titles by hitting subscribe and ringing the bell, and feel free to sound off about how much you're looking forward to being Lord of the Rodents once again down in the comments. See you next time.